Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Hello. This is Mr. Cordova's history lesson today. We're going to talk about the War of 1812. We're going to look into a few things. We're going to look mainly about what were the causes of the War of 1812. We're going to look into a few things about this lesson today. How is everyone? Hope everyone's okay. If you need to reach out or anything, I'm always open to hearing from you and listening. So just want to leave that out there. Hope everyone's doing okay. All right. So before we get started in class today, we're going to look at a few key terms about the War of 1812. You should have received a Google Doc that has all 10 vocabulary words. You're looking at the words hopefully right now. That is the War of 1812. We're going to define that. Impressment, maritime rights, Embargo Act of 1807, expansionism. We're going to look into what exactly does that mean. Louisiana Purchase. That might be a hint about what expansionism is and all the intricacies with that. Lewis and Clark, Tecumseh, who was that person? Warhawks, was it a person, a thing? And President James Madison. We're going to look in all these key words, key terms that we will talk about during this lesson today. So hopefully you have that out there. If you don't, I can just quickly share the link in the chat. All right, so before we get started, I have a big question I want to talk about. So last class we spoke about Thomas Jefferson, his success and failures during his presidency. We're gonna come back a little bit and discuss about Jefferson's presidency. How were the British interfering with American maritime rights during his presidency? Right here, students will have a few minutes discussing or remembering, backtracking about what exactly happened. And then we will talk about, someone would say, impressment. So here, students, we're going to look about what is impressment exactly. I have a YouTube video that discusses what it is.
Oh, nothing like being back in port after a long voyage on the open sea. Catmill's a great trip. I got me a big pile of change in me pocket. I tell you, ever since I come to America 20 years ago and became an American, it's been great. This truly is the land of opportunity, and I'm going to find me a little opportunity right. But wow, yes, son. Son, I think you probably, I wonder if there's any fun. But who knows, perhaps we'll see again. As you get a man trained, they try and desert you, and then you have to load the ship again with more crew. It's forever a harassment. But who knows, perhaps we'll soon find an American merchant ship and we'll impress a few of their boys just serving.
And this video kind of goes on and discusses a little bit more about that process and goes into a little more detail, which I think students will find helpful as well. It's a short video, very enjoyable little cartoon that I found, but overall, I think it serves the purpose. And we will define the word impressment because it's one of our vocabulary key terms that we need to address here. So when we look back, impressment, the taking of men into military or naval force by force. And here we have another image that clearly shows students another way, not just visual audio, but another image, a visual aid that helps them understand what impressment is. So I thought that was a good way to segue into this. But another thing I would ask, what is the War of 1812? Students would have the opportunity to discuss this. And as well here, like we see in our other vocabulary list, we have another key term here, and students will be able to write that down or type it up as they wish. So it's a war between US and the British over British violations of US maritime rights, ending in the Treaty of Ghent. Just a quick little summary. And here's another visual aid that I have that we see here. I would ask students what they see, and they would say, oh, someone would say it's the White House, and they see it burning. And that's one of the main things that comes from the War of 1812 when you think about the War of 1812. Here, we're gonna talk about big questions. We're going to look and see, why did the British use imprisonment? These are some big questions we're going to think about before we break up into groups as well. We're going to answer together or individually within your groups as well. Another question is, what was the embargo of 1807? Students should have some background knowledge or a little bit already about it. And then we're going to talk about, why did the US place the embargo on the British? So, and they'll explore that. And we'll also look into, why were the British supporting Native Americans on the Western Front? As you know, the US is quickly expanding, and people of immigrants from the European continents are flocking into the United States. So we're looking into that clash and that conflict. And that's where other people are coming about, such as Tecumseh, and why his name is brought up. And another question is, who were the war hawks, and what did they want, and why did they want it? So those are big questions we're going to look into today as a class. But here, we're going to look at our first one. We're going to look at, what were the causes of the War of 1812. Let's brainstorm and discuss as a class. I like to hear comments in the chat, or if you would like to start using breakout rooms now, we can decide as a class as well. Remember, but we're going to learn about this. Here, students have the opportunity to identify as best as I can what are some causes from what they think it could be. But big question number one, we're going to look into, why did the British use imprisonment? Here, I will model this. I would say, okay, let's do a little more investigative research, whether they have their textbook on hand, or they use all different resources such as links, YouTube videos, etc. Ultimately, we'll answer that question. After we answer this question here, we're gonna start going into breakout rooms. Here, students have the opportunity to go into their breakout rooms on Zoom for 7 minutes to explore. Before we explore, I will talk about how would the Americans have felt about imprisonment, whether they're for it or against it, and they will try to find answers on the internet. Also, we will look at, how would you feel if you worked for a trading company, such as referencing the YouTube video from the previous slide, and all of a sudden you would have taken the British by force and had to serve. So that would be one of the breakout rooms, and they would need to discuss that for 7 minutes, and we'll switch. Also, in another breakout room, we will talk about, do you think the war hawks were right? Yes or no? Also, we will look into, who do the war hawks remind you of today? So it's just an interesting spin on that. So we can kind of like have a connector from the past to today and make that connection. It's just another way for students to have a little more insight on their own world today. I thought it was pretty useful. And another question before we get into breakout rooms, Jefferson placed the embargo on the British and French during their war times. Do you think the embargo met its goal prior to 1812? So that's what they're going to really discuss. And why do you think Native Americans were willing to support the British? This is a fundamental question. When we get into the War of 1812, and this will hopefully lead them into a cause, one of the main factors of leading up to the War of 1812, and what connections can you make of this? So this is an opportunity for students to look into that as well. So in their first breakout room, they will look, the first breakout room, the Embargoed Act of 1807. They'll look at political cartoons, headlines, etc. from the War of 1812. And here we have a link about just one more time if they don't understand what it is. Here it is. They will see it's a political cartoon reacting to the president's embargo act, and they will really dissect it and really get into the details and try to figure out what insights they can get out of this political cartoon and what were the reactions of the time. Were they people for it or against it? And like previous questions we were going to discuss, like how would how they was it successful? Did it meet its goal? Why? What was it, and why did the U.S. Really place this embargo in the first place, and what was happening? And they should be able to reference back to impressment. Um, so that would be one. The second breakout room would be about war hawks, because we would be able to identify this. They would read statements from primary sources from the war hawks and their opponents to understand their perspectives on the US potentially entering the war. Here you see another visual aid, political cartoon of the times. But here we'll see a few other things such as in the library of the Indiana University. They will look into primary documents, read quotes from influential Congress, political people, and they would just discuss it once amongst another about yes or no, yay or nay. And lastly, the last breakout room program, we'll talk about the Native American perspective. How are they a factor in for the War of 1812. They would read quotes from Tecumseh. He was a leading Native American person that really advocated for a Native American nation union. And it's important to and here's an archive about what he said, famous quotes, and once again trying to answer questions and filling out these terms. But lastly, and then we will gather back together after we get out from each break room and really discuss what was right, what was wrong. Did we hit our initial goals by answering our objectives? I thought that was important to go back to and understand. So eventually students will be able to answer these bigger questions. Who were the British supporting? Why were they supporting? Who were the war hawks? What did they want? And by providing these political cartoons, visual aids, videos, and any other extracurricular links, it's important that students are free to roam and explore, just to make sure I'm able to cater to all learning abilities. And here lastly, we'll look at one last time, we will look into what were the causes and effect. And here we would list all the causes. And then later for the next class, we would fill out the effects. And then here I would have it once again, what were the causes, when I would clearly list them. And then so in case other students weren't able to catch on the first time. But this will conclude my my lesson for the War of 1812. And thank you very much.